This is Local Matters on CBS 17 News at 4.
The North Carolina public school system is one of the largest in the country, and a new person will take charge soon after the election.
CBS 17's Russ Bowen is back with us with the continuation of his interview with Republican candidate Michele Morrow. And Russ, this part of the interview is focused on policy.
Yeah, that's right. In the last half hour, we talked about controversial social media posts and statements, but from there, we moved on to what changes Michele Morrow would like to implement, including this explanation to not allowing elementary students to advance until they are proficient in reading, writing, and math.
I think we have got to start focusing our classroom time and our curriculum on evidence-based learning instead of all of these theories. I think we need to focus on determining whether students have potential learning issues earlier on.
And you've talked about that, right?
I have talked about that.
Diagnosing children at a much earlier age if they have something like, if dyslexia or ADHD.
Yes. And I think, too, we have got to look at the fact that we are only increasing the number of students that have learning differences, that are exceptional learners. That number of students has only been, expanding rather than diminishing. So I think it's important that we also look at our colleges and universities that are training up the next teachers, that they have the skills to be able to get these children the education that they need to be successful.
Do they fail the grade? How does this work?
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, if they don't reach this threshold that you're talking about.
Oh, absolutely. I think too, one thing that we can do that's going to be practical, especially within the K through 5 grades, we have got to take the screens out of our children's hands because they need that face-to-face instruction.
You talk about, recruiting some of the best teachers that we can, which is really difficult in a state like North Carolina where the pay is not very good, nationally speaking.
Well, I have to say, 20 years ago, there were many districts that had a 2- and 3-year wait list to be a teacher. And I think while we do need to increase the pay, and I will do that because I'm going to get all of the administrative waste, all of the money that we're spending that doesn't have anything to do with boots on the ground staff and DEI, for instance, and entire departments that are about SEL and asking our children how they feel, having to rewrite curriculum based on the color of somebody's skin. All of these things have been mandated for us by the Department of Education, and it has had literally been tied to our funding, and that needs to be removed.
I know that you've always been or are a proponent of school choice, but I want to talk about school vouchers for a minute because the state legislature overrode Governor Cooper's veto recently and approved hundreds of millions of dollars to go into school vouchers. My question though for you is, you talk about streamlining where our money is spent with what we've got, right? Do you think that money should go outside the public school system, or should that be inside the public school system to improve our schools?
Well, this is the caveat. I think this is a short-term solution to something that has been building for decades, and we need to recognize that there are tens of thousands of parents and teachers that have left the traditional school system. And the problem is, out of our 115 districts, 37 districts have no charter schools. There is no option. So the question that I have to ask to the people of North Carolina is, do you think that it's fair to leave a student in a failing school? What if they're being bullied? What if they are not getting the services? What if they are not succeeding? Is it fair to them to leave them there with no other option when the only other option is a private school? Now, to add to that, I think there absolutely should be a cap on who can get that money. I think it's ridiculous to have somebody making $500,000 that thinks that they need an opportunity scholarship. But I will say this, the priority should be in those 37 districts that do not have a charter school.
North Carolina consistently ranks about 10th, in terms of population of public school students in the country. It's a huge school system when you think about it.
It is a huge school system.
Your experiences as a nurse, you've homeschooled your kids for much of their schooling. You haven't worked in the public school system or in the school system of any sort. Why do you think you're the right person qualified to take this job?
I think one of the greatest qualifications that I have is that I am not indebted to the failing bureaucracy of the public educational industrial complex. And I will tell you, I've taught for 10 years other people's children. I taught them biology, chemistry, civics and government, as well as Spanish. What my opponent has is zero experience in a classroom. In addition, my children were in public school, private school, and homeschool. And as a matter of fact, I actually helped in the classroom 2 days a week for 4 years. So I have been there. I've seen it. What we need is fresh eyes, fresh ideas, somebody that is not beholden to the system and is not just saying, oh, we have to do it this way because it's always been done this way. The first thing that we need to do is we need to bring a code of conduct to the state of North Carolina. We have got to make our schools the safest buildings in the state. If we cannot make keep our students and our staff safe, then learning is not going to happen. So that is at the top of my priority list.
And that includes SROs?
That includes SROs, absolutely.
Would that include teachers being able to carry guns?
No, my School Safety Advisory Council, they have some different opinions about that, only because if in the case of an active shooter, they want to know that the only person in that building is the assailant, right? And so I can understand that concept.
What else are you going to ask for?
I'd love for them to pass through the Senate the Excellence in Education Act, which basically said that our curriculum needs to be focused on pro-American, pro-family values. We should not be dividing people by their skin color, by their gender.
Pro-family value?
Pro-family value is we should be able to use the words mom and dad, and we should be able to call students boys and girls and get back to what we all understand to be the common, the common perception of that there's two genders and that.
What about the mom and mom situation or father and father, if that's.
Well, that exists. I mean, there's so many people that are from divorced families that they have stepmothers and stepfathers. So they might be living, they might say, I have two moms or I have two dads. Just leave it at that.
So Morrow is running against Democratic candidate Mo Green. He is a former superintendent of Guilford County Schools, so we are working with his campaign to secure a date for him to join us in the studio as well. And both of you know when we talk to one candidate, we always reach out to the other candidate. We try to get them close together as best we can. But, we have our certain schedule when we can bring people in based on our production availability, and they have their schedule based on what they're doing out on the campaign trail, guys.
Well, and some people don't want to come in and discuss it. So, all right, Russ, thank you so much.
You bet.